Alright, so in today's video, we are going to be talking about the best way to use your Raspberry Pi for, well, at least one of them. So I know it's hard to declare something as the best, but this one is very, very high up there for me. With all that said, let's dive straight into the video. But first, let me tell you about today's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is a service that will allow you to create custom PCB prototypes, flexible PCBs, PCB assemblies, CNC, 3D printing, and much more. Let's say you were building a custom project and you needed a specific PCB for it to work correctly. All you need to do is go to PCBWay.com, become a member, get $5 for free, and order your first 1 to 2 layered standard PCB prototype with dimensions of within 100 to 100 millimeters and with a quantity of 10, and it would be completely free. PCBWay also has an open source community that you can join where you can find custom projects that PCBWay users have curated, some even with the Raspberry Pi. Basically, if you need anything from PCB prototypes to SMD stencils and to all of their other great services, PCBWay has it covered. I know you're on the edge of your seat right now, so I'll get straight to the point. So in my opinion, turning your Raspberry Pi 4 into a home server is one of the best ways that you can utilize your small, tiny, little Raspberry Pi 4. And this isn't only because it's a fun project, but because it can be super useful. So I just got into home servers about this year, and I'm still learning a ton. Hear me out. I am nowhere near being professional. However, compared to the beginning, I know a ton more now, and I've just enjoyed the process so much. And for those of you who don't really know what a home server is, it's basically a server that runs 24/7 that you have complete control over and that you can customize to your personal needs. For example, you could create a NAS to store files that could be accessed from any one of your computers. Or you could install Jellyfin to watch all of your favorite media from all of your devices as well. And funny enough, we're going to be doing all of that in today's video as well. So, for this project, you're going to need a Raspberry Pi 4, and any model should work, but either a 4 or 8 GB model are recommended, since the more RAM means the more applications you'll be able to run. You will also need a storage device to boot off from, such as an SD card or a USB stick. I'm going to be using a USB stick for this video, but if you really wanted to utilize this as a server, I would recommend something with a little bit more storage. And you could always add external storage, such as a hard drive later on, but that requires extra work, so in today's video, we're just going to be sticking to using our internal storage, basically the storage that we're booting off from. And I've also divided this process into 10 steps to follow with timestamps below in the description. So if you're ever confused in the process, just check down below and you should be able to figure out where you should go next. So, with all that said, let's dive into our desktop and begin the process. Okay, so I'm now on my main computer and I'm actually running Linux on this computer currently, but it really doesn't matter for you guys. You guys could be on a Mac, you could be on Windows, you could be on Linux. You can really be on any operating system for this process and you should be good. So don't worry about that. And the steps should be pretty much the same on all operating systems, so you don't have to worry about that so much either. Okay, so now for step number 1, we have come to step number 1. So if you're wondering what step number 1 is, well, step number 1 is downloading our operating system that we're going to be using to create our home server. So in my case, as you can see right here, I'm actually going to be using DietPi as my operating system. But of course, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and you could use something such as Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit or Ubuntu Server. But for me, DietPi is really awesome because it's incredibly lightweight and it has some really useful tools built into it that make running a server pretty easy. So if you want to follow exactly what I'm doing, I would recommend going with DietPi, and that's what I would recommend for a server because it seems to work pretty well for me. So if you're ready, we are going to go with DietPi. So you can find this link right here in the description below, or it's just dietpi.com. So go to dietpi.com and then scroll down, and the first one you're going to see is going to be Raspberry Pi. So click Raspberry Pi. And we are going to want to go with the ARM V8 64-bit image for the Raspberry Pi 4. So we're going to want to go with this one. So click right here and click download. So download it to your computer. Okay, so after it's downloaded, open up your file manager right here, and you're gonna have this file right here. It's actually incredibly small, only 132 megabytes. So that's really cool. But it actually is a .7z, meaning that something like Raspberry Pi Imager won't actually recognize this. So you're gonna have to right click and right click, go extract here, and it's gonna extract it to a separate folder right here in which you're gonna have a .image file. This is the file that we're actually going to use to flash our operating system. So that brings us to step number 2, which is going to be flashing our operating system like I just said. So for this, we're going to be using Raspberry Pi Imager. So you can download this for any operating system, Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. So follow along. You're going to open up Raspberry Pi Imager, or you might have to install it if you don't already have it. But have it on your computer like I have it right now. Click Choose OS, and go Use Custom. Choose Use Custom, and go into the DietPi folder right here and choose the DietPi bullseye.image file. Choose that one. And next, for choose storage, you're going to hit choose storage and choose your USB drive or your SD card, or really whatever device you're using to boot off from. I'm currently using this SanDisk Ultra USB, so I'm going to click this and I'm going to hit right. We don't really need to mess with these settings. We're just going to hit right, click yes, type in your password. And since it's such a small file, the write process is going to be really fast. But still, be patient. Don't do anything. Let this thing finish writing to your USB device, and you'll be good to go. Alright, so that was really fast for me. I didn't even get out of my chair. I just stayed here, and it's already done. So now that it's done, we can hit continue, and you can basically pull out whatever device you were using to flash this to. Pull that out of your computer, plug it into your Raspberry Pi 4, and we are going to be using a monitor for this process just to make it easier. So plug in your HDMI cable, plug in your keyboard cable. You don't need a mouse for this process, you just need a keyboard, so plug in your keyboard. And I am going to be using Ethernet. Using Wi-Fi is possible, but Ethernet is going to just make this thing much easier, and with a home server, an Ethernet is going to make the server much more reliable and quicker, so I would recommend using Ethernet. But if you don't have any way to use that, you still can use Wi-Fi. But if you're using Ethernet, plug in your Ethernet cable as well, and plug in your USB-C cable to boot up your Raspberry Pi 4, and I'll meet you back on the Raspberry Pi 4. Okay, so I plugged in all of my cables and I booted up my Raspberry Pi 4, and this is what my monitor output looks like. And once you're patient enough, this is what it should look like for you too. So first of all, as I had said before, I am using an Ethernet connection. So as you can see right here at the top, it already says my IP address, which is just kind of one of the cool things that DietPi does for you. It helps you see useful information right out of the box, which I really do enjoy. But for the first step, or more like for step number 3, we're going to have to set up our DietPi interface. So it says please hit return to login. So our DietPi login right here above, as we can see, it says our username is root. So we're going to type in root and hit enter. And our default password, as it says above, is DietPi. So type in DietPi and hit enter, and it's going to just go through trying to update our system, trying to get us the latest packages, and make sure that we have a really useful and functional type of operating system, which is another cool thing that DietPi does. It just tries to provide us with an easy installation and the most up-to-date one as well. So I'm going to be patient and just let this thing go through and update and do everything like that. Okay, so I just glanced back at my monitor and I got this little pop-up. So this is asking me if I would like to change my default global software password, and I would recommend doing this just to be a little bit safer. So I'm going to hit OK, scroll to the left, and enter a new global software password. So just type that in, whatever you really want to do. And you're going to have to confirm it, type it in again, and change existing Unix user passwords. And I would recommend doing this as well. So I'm going to scroll over and hit OK. I'm going to do the same thing again. Alright, so now it's saying a serial UART console is currently enabled. Would you like to disable it? So it's saying if you do not know what it is, it's safe to select yes, and so this is basically, you can click yes if you want to free up some extra memory and stuff like that. And I personally, I don't really know what it is, and I'm not really going to be using it. So I'm gonna hit yes, but of course, if you do want to click no and keep it, you can go. It's not gonna do that much. So if you just want to be safe and click no, go ahead and do that. But I'm gonna go ahead and disable it. So I'm gonna hit yes. So it's just disabling that for me real fast. And here we are in the DietPi software. So from here, you can actually go ahead and install some additional software that you might want through the process. So you could be like, we could browse software, and there's some applications like you could install the Plex Media Server or MB or Apache or with different stuff like that that you might want to host on here. You could go ahead and install it. But this isn't how I want to go about this actually. We're going to be using Docker for this process, and we're not going to be installing Docker through DietPi. We're going to be installing it through a script that I will showcase in a little bit. So because we're not going to be using that, and we are not going to be using a desktop environment either, because that's just going to waste our memory and our CPU. So we don't really want to do anything in here, honestly. I don't want to. So I'm going to hit install right here. And you wish to continue with DietPi as a pure minimal image. And that's what I want to do to use at the least amount of memory possible. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to start installing DietPi. It's basically already installed. It's just applying all of the changes and making sure we get a light, minimal experience. Okay, so during the installation process, this little pop-up comes up and it asks you if you want to share some information with DietPi, which I assume is going to help them like figure out and know what to do better and stuff. So personally, I don't think it's bad to share. So I'm gonna go up and opt in. But of course, if you think that's a security risk or anything like that, you can always opt out. So I'm gonna opt in real here, and it's just sending the data, and we are ready to go. Okay, so now we have a DietPi successfully installed on our Raspberry Pi 4, as you can see right here. So we actually are ready to go ahead to the next step of installing Docker to create our home server. But I first want to take a break, and I want to show you guys why I really enjoy DietPi and why I chose it for this process. So right here at the top, you can see we have a nice little pop-up that pops up every time we boot up our Raspberry Pi with DietPi. So it says our device model, it says our CPU temperature right out of the box, it tells us our IP address, and it just gives us some useful information. And there are really useful commands built into it. So anywhere, any terminal with this operating system, I can type in CPU and it shows me my Raspberry Pi's temperature. And anywhere I could type in a DietPi -config and I can configure my DietPi from anywhere. So just really useful tools like this built into the system make me really enjoy DietPi. So, we have that out of the way now, so we know why we chose DietPi. But for step number 4, I actually want to SSH into my Raspberry Pi to make this process much more easier. So SSH means access my Raspberry Pi from my main computer through the terminal, so I can basically copy commands from my main computer into here, and it's just going to make this process much more seamless. So I really would recommend you guys SSH as well. So for step number 4, we in our Raspberry Pi right here, we're going to want to type IP space ADDR. Type IP space ADDR, hit enter. And right here, you can see mine is right here, and it says 192.168.0.71. So you're going to want to make note of that IP address either through writing it down or accessing it through your computer or something, and hop onto your main device, your main computer, and I'll meet you there real fast. Alright, so I'm back on my main computer right now, and hopefully you are too. And now that you know your IP address, either by writing it down or doing something with it, now you're going to want to open up your terminal. If you're on Linux, it's terminal. If you're on Mac OS, it's terminal. And if you're on Windows, you can open up the command prompt. And the command for this is going to be the same for all 3 of those operating systems. So once you're in your terminal or your command prompt, you're going to want to type SSH DietPi, type DietPi, the @ sign, and type in your Raspberry Pi's IP address. So mine is 192.168.0.71. So I have that in there exactly like that. I'm going to hit enter, and we are about to connect. So are you sure you want to continue connecting? So I'm going to type in yes. Type in yes like that, hit enter, and type in DietPi's password, so the password that you created during the installation process. So I'm going to type mine in, and here we are, right in our DietPi dashboard. And just like we saw with the monitor, by default, it says our CPU temperature, our IP address, really useful stuff like that comes right on here with DietPi, which is amazing. So I'm super happy about that. So now we can actually go to step number 5. Step number 5 is going to be installing Docker through this Pi hosted script. So right now is where I actually have to stop, and I have to give a huge shout out to YouTuber Nova Spirit Tech. So a lot of this idea came from YouTuber Nova Spirit Tech, who has done a huge YouTube series of turning his Raspberry Pi into a home server like we're about doing today, but he's went into much more detail than me, and he has tried out a lot of stuff, and they've actually made a whole website for it with an amazing installation script that actually installs Docker and Portainer, which are going to be important for today's process right out of the box for us. So definitely, if you want to learn more about this more in depth, I will leave a link to his videos and his playlist in the description below, because he's just done an incredible job. So definitely check his channel out. Okay, so right here it says installation, and this is going to install Docker for us on DietPi. So we're going to just copy this wget script right here. You don't need to copy the below script. Right click copy, paste it in your terminal like mine right here, hit enter, and this is going to start to install Docker for us. And it really depends on your internet connection again, but it might take a little bit. So again, be patient. Yeah. Okay, so Docker is now done installing on our DietPi, as you can see right here. So, but it says remember to log off or reboot for the changes to take effect. So just to be safe, I'm going to type in sudo reboot, and I would recommend you guys to do that too. And it's going to close our SSH process, but it's going to reboot our Raspberry Pi 4 just to make sure Docker is installed correctly, and then we'll head over to the next step. Okay, so hopefully my Raspberry Pi is now rebooted. We can test that again by pressing the up key until we get SSH, our old SSH command showing up again. And you're going to have to enter that password one more time. So enter your DietPi's password, and here we are back on our Raspberry Pi. And now we have Docker installed, which is going to open up so many doors for a home server process. But first of all, we have to install this Portainer, which is going to give us a web interface to access our Docker containers. And for this part, our version of DietPi is based on Bullseye, so this part is not good for, we don't have to worry about this part. We're going to scroll straight to install Portainer. So we're going to copy this part right here, which is going to install Portainer on our system. So copy that, paste it into the terminal, and hit enter. And again, this process shouldn't take too long, but it might take a little bit. So just be patient, let this thing do its thing, and install Portainer for us on our Raspberry Pi 4. Alright, so the Portainer installer script, as you can see, is done right here because we're back to our terminal type of experience thingy right here. So now we actually are done, we're pretty much done with our Raspberry Pi terminal. Now we're going to go into our web browser and start doing stuff there. So if you're ready, just follow along. So I'm going to make my browser full screen right here. But in our browser, we're going to type our IP address of our Raspberry Pi 4, which again, you could look up right here again to see it, and mine is 192.168.0.71. So I'm going to type that in my browser right here, 192.168.0.71. And this part is important. So to access Portainer, we have to put in the correct port. So you're going to put a colon and then type in port 9000. So just type in 9000, hit enter, and as you can see, it takes us straight to Portainer. But the crazy thing is, this Portainer is running on your own Raspberry Pi 4, not on some other server or anything like that. So that is pretty cool. Okay, so now we are going to create a Portainer password and username. So the default username is admin. You could always change that if you like. I'm going to leave it as is for today, and as my password, I'll type in a secure password. Then you can do the same thing as well. Okay, so once you've got a correct password in there, we are ready to create our user. So hit create user right here, and I'm going to save it right here. Okay, so once you get to this screen, we are almost ready to start configuring our Docker or a home server experience. So right here, you're going to click get started, And here, local. Local means it's running on this system. So we're going to click local. And right now we click container. We have one container running, which is kind of like one application. And that one application is Portainer itself. So we have successfully installed Docker and Portainer on our Raspberry Pi 4, and we are actually ready to start installing more applications. But before we actually get to doing that, there is one thing that we need to do. So we're going to put this on this side and take Pi hosted to the other side. Okay, so right here, if we click app templates, these are the applications that we can actually install on our home server. Okay, so currently there are just a few applications that we can install through Portainer on our own system. And a lot of these probably won't even run on our system since we're running an ARM system, not an x86 system. But again, huge thank you to Nova Spirit Tech and his amazing community. They've actually put together a template that has an incredible amount of applications built specifically for ARM64, meaning they will for sure work on your Raspberry Pi 4, and we can actually change that ourselves. So you're going to want to go back to pihosted.com, and you're going to want to scroll down to where it says Portainer v2 ARM64, and we're going to want to copy the ARM64 version because this is a 64-bit operating system. So if you have the Portainer thingy copied, you're gonna want to go back to where it says Portainer right here. You're gonna want to click Settings, and for app templates, we're gonna remove the default app templates right here. Remove that and paste in our new one that is specific for ARM64. So we're gonna hit Save Settings, and our settings are updated. So now if we go back to app templates, look at this. We have a ton more applications, and they will all work on our Raspberry Pi, which is just so awesome. Like right here, I could type in Pi-hole. Here we have Pi-hole. You could run Pi-hole on here. If I typed in Nextcloud, you could run Nextcloud on here. If I typed in Jellyfin, you could run Jellyfin on here. This app template allows you to install so many applications so easily, and I'm going to show you how to install applications right now. So I know you're really excited right now after seeing all of these amazing applications that you can run on your Raspberry Pi 4, but one thing that you usually need when creating a home server is some type of dashboard where you can access all of your applications from. And for that dashboard, for this video, I actually want to use a dashboard called Flame because I think it looks really, really beautiful. But the version from here doesn't really work for me because it doesn't create a password, so we're going to be creating it a little bit different. So if you want a home dashboard and you want to follow me, we are going to want to go over here to where it says stacks. In stacks, we are going to click add a stack, and here we are going to create a new stack, and this is going to allow us to install the Flame dashboard. Okay, so I will provide this text in the description below if you do want to install Flame yourself, but this is basically what we need to install Flame on our home server. I know it's not as easy as using the other app templates, but we will be installing some other applications through the app templates a little bit later, so don't worry, it won't go to waste. But here we need to change one thing. So our password, we need to change our password to Flame. So I'm going to type in a password right here, and yeah, so my super secure password is set right here, and that's about it for what we need to install Flame. We just need to set a custom name. I'm going to call mine Flame, not too custom if you ask me. So that is basically what we're going to do. Oh, so it looks like the name is a little bit off. It needs to be lowercase. So I'm gonna call it Flame like that. And once we have all of that set, let's try to deploy the stack. And okay, so it did take a little bit to install that stack, but now it is successfully installed. And you can know that it's installed when it kind of goes away from the installation page and just says Flame right here. And if we go right here to containers, we can see that Flame is running right here. You can see it says the state is running, and it tells us where we can access it. So it's using the 5005 port. So we're going to go ahead and access our dashboard. I'm going to click right here. And right now it has our IP address as 0.000. So we're going to remove that and type in your custom IP address. So I'm typing in mine right here and leave the :5005 as our port for Flame. And bam, we are in the Flame dashboard right here. But right now, there is absolutely nothing right here, and that's because we have to customize it first. We need to go to settings, so click right here to go to settings and type in your password that you created during the Docker compose or the setup process. Whenever we were setting it up, the password that you created. I'm going to type in mine, and I'm going to hit login. And I'm going to save it. So now we have Flame logged in and we are pretty good. So you can actually change the theme of Flame as well. So I'll put this blue like that. And if we go back to right here, you can see this is kind of what our dashboard looks like. So we don't have any applications in here yet, and it is pretty bare bones. But I did want to showcase one thing. So you can completely change the way this dashboard looks by adding some custom CSS. So I'm going to go back right here and I'm going to click CSS, and this allows you to change the way this looks. And there's one that I really do enjoy, and that is by this Discord user just5ky, and he has a beautiful custom CSS that makes Docker look really, or the Flame dashboard look really good. So I'm going to click so if you do want to follow along and change it, follow me right here. So go to his GitHub page, which will be linked down below. Click custom CSS right here, and you're basically just going to want to copy everything in this file right here. So I'm just going to right click copy, and I'm going to put it in our Flame dashboard exactly right here. So we have that set, but what about changing the background image? Since I don't always want this blue image right here, well, you just go right here, and right here it says a background image, and here you can actually put a URL to change the background image. So I found this one that I kind of enjoy. So it's on the KDE store, but of course your guys could be really anywhere. But find an image that you like online, right click, copy image link, copy the image link, and replace this link in here with your own custom link. So I'm going to add mine right here, and once you're done, we're going to hit save CSS. So reload the page to see the changes. So here we have my own background in the back right here. I'm going to go back right here. So Flame kind of automatically blurs the background image, so it kind of looks low resolution right now. It's not the best of best images. I could have found something better, but this is just for an example. So here I've set a custom image, and now these used to be like in the middle, now they're to the side, and it's looking pretty cool. This is going to be a cool home server. But if we went to applications, if we wanted to add an application, well, we don't have any application to add right now. So how are we going to do that? Well, exactly. That brings us to step number 8, which is going to be installing some applications. But of course, this part is going to be optional. So this part, you don't have to install these applications that I'm doing, but I'm going to be installing them to showcase how it works. So our first application that I want to do, which is going to be step 8, is going to be installing Jellyfin, which is going to allow us to create a media server. So if you don't know what a media server is, it basically, if you own your own movie files, you can add them to Jellyfin once it's hosted, and you'll be able to access this from all of your computers, and it's kind of like a Netflix, like you're making your own Netflix, you're making your own watching media service, and it really is cool. So to access this, go to App Templates, and go into the search place right here, and search for Jellyfin. Search for Jellyfin right here, but I want to showcase one thing, so I'm going to hit show advanced options. So since Jellyfin is running inside of a Docker container, it doesn't have access to all of your files. You kind of have to give it access to the files before you install it. So right here, Jellyfin, currently it has access to Portainer TV and Portainer movies, so we can check to see if those folders are actually available on our system. So I'm still SSH'd into my Raspberry Pi right here. If I type in cd/portainer/tv, we can see that there is no such file or directory, and it would be the same for movies as well. So it looks like we don't even have those folders that Jellyfin is going to be accessing, which means you're going to have a really hard time trying to allow Jellyfin to recognize your movie files. So to change that, I want to go and create our own file. So in our Raspberry Pi's SSH terminal right here, we are going to go into cd home. So this is our home directory, and we are going to create 2 new folders. So first of all, we are going to want to type mkdir, and we're going to call this movies. So we got to go sudo mkdir movies. And then we are also going to do the same thing, but we're going to change this to TV. So now if I do ls, we have TV and movies. So we have 2 directories. So if I cd out, now I can go cd/home/TV. And this is where I'm going to recommend you guys to store all of your movie files in /home TV. So this right here, we're going to change to /home/TV, and this we're going to change to /home/movies. So you don't have to use the directory that I just used, but I'm just trying to help you guys to make sure that you will be able to access all of your movies from your Jellyfin instance. So once you have that set correctly, you're going to click this blue button right here, which is deploy the container, and this means your Jellyfin instance is about to be ready and about to start working. Okay, so Jellyfin is now done installing, so now we successfully have one application hosted on our Raspberry Pi. So you officially basically have a home server now. But of course, you can always add more applications later on. But let's start out with Jellyfin and see what it looks like. So you're going to want to click this button right here, the port 8096. And then change the 0 part to your own IP address, of course, and leave the port :8096. Hit enter, and now we're going to be welcomed into the Jellyfin setup process. And here you can actually add a media library if you wanted to. So I could click movies and folders. If I click folders, we could go to data TV shows or data movies, which for us is actually /home/movies. So it shows the name set differently on here than it actually is on a real system. So keep that in mind. But let's say I had some TV shows in /home/TV. I can click OK, and then my TV shows would actually start to show up now. So that's just really awesome. So I'm going to finish this, and I'm actually not going to use it. I'm not going to have any media for now because the video is already getting pretty long. But again, now we don't really have an easy way to access Jellyfin yet. So that's where Flame comes in, our home dashboard. So you're going to want, if you're in the home dashboard of Flame, you're going to want to hit applications right here. We're going to want to click add. So our app name, we're going to type it in real fast. And our app URL. So our app URL is this right here. We can copy this and paste it in here. But honestly, we don't really need all of that. We just want this part right here. So I'm going to leave that as my app URL. And if you want to give a description, you can. But I don't really need one. But if you wanted to, you could say like movies or something like that. And our app icon. So yeah, I have basically copied an image link right here. It's actually from their Twitter page. But of course, you could use really any image that you like. Just get the image. So yeah, you can get it from anywhere. This is from their Twitter page, but get a type of image or app icon that you enjoy. And then you just hit add new application. So that is as easy as that. So if we went back here to our main page, now we have one application on our dashboard, and look at this. You click it, and it opens up Jellyfin. For step 9, or more for step 10 actually, so for the last thing of this video, I wanted to show installing SAMBA to create to turn our Raspberry Pi 4 into a NAS, a network attached storage device. So to do that, we're going to want to go to App Templates. So go to App Templates and search for SAMBA. Here is SAMBA. We're going to click SAMBA and click Show Advanced Options, and that is about, we don't really want to change anything other than you could change the host place. So right now it's the Portainer downloads. I think I'll put mine to home. So this will allow you to be able to access those folders that we created for Jellyfin, and that would allow you to be able to copy over folders or copy over movies for Jellyfin. So you don't have to use the home folder, but I want to. So I'm going to leave it as a home folder, and I'm going to hit deploy. And this is going to install SAMBA, which is going to allow us to access this folder from our file manager on my main computer right here. Okay, so now SAMBA is now hosted on our Raspberry Pi 4. It says healthy. So now we have a second application running in our small, tiny home server. But now we want to actually access that. And we don't do that through any web interface or anything like that. We're just going to scroll down or close that up. And we are going to want to open up our file manager right here. we're going to want to go to network. Of course, if you're on a different operating system like Mac OS or Windows, or even a different Linux distribution, this might look a little bit different, but you're just going to have to Google how to access network storages, and then you should be able to figure it out. But for me, I am on KDE Plasma, so I hit network, and I'm going to enter my server URL. So I'm going to type in SMB:/ and my IP address of my Raspberry Pi. So 192.168.0.71. So type that in, hit enter, and automatically right here it's called Portainer. So I'm going to double click it, and we have to do a username and password. And right now you may be a little bit confused. You're like, I never set up a username or password. Well, don't worry, the default username and password is both guessed. So we're going to type in guest for username and guest for password. And I want to remember the password, so I don't want to have to continue to type this in. So I'm going to hit OK. And bam, we are in our Raspberry Pi server, or we can access it through the file manager. So right here, we have our movies folder that we created, and we have our TV folder that we created, and even our DietPi folder, which was there by default. But now we can put files on here, and we could paste it right here, and bam, now that is stored on my Raspberry Pi. So if I switch to another computer and I access this folder through the file manager, I would be able to access that video from there as well. And this also allows you to copy over movies or shows into the TV folder, such as this. So I could put this video into the TV folder, I can move it in there, and then I would actually be able to access that from Jellyfin later on. So this really allows you to configure your Jellyfin server, and it allows you to store new files. So yeah, I really love this SAMBA thing. It can be really useful. So I really would recommend you to try this out. Alright guys, so I know this has been a very lengthy video, but if you were here for the whole ride, I hope you guys have a beautiful dashboard set up and you are ready to continue learning about hosting and the Raspberry Pi 4. So if you have any questions about anything I did in this video, let me know down below in the comments. And if you'd like me to do more videos about Docker and the Raspberry Pi 4, let me know. And if you're just interested in learning more, please don't forget to check out Nova Spirit's amazing Pi hosted series. And with that said, I guess we're here to end the video. So if you really enjoyed the video, a subscribe. If you really liked it, a like, and thanks for watching!